I was listening to your excellent interview with Skeets actually, and you were talking about how Free Darko almost intimidated people in a little way. Like people had a view that it was some sort of cult that they weren't a part of. Even writers for Free Darko felt that way, and that the classical would be more inclusive. And I'm wondering, how will you accomplish that, and what does that mean?
Well, I think on the most basic level, we're not going to have weird, fake, funny names and, sort of like this elaborate like symbol system and buzzwords that we don't even know what they mean, and we just sort of esoterically work on them ourselves and in the process make everyone else feel left out. I mean, we're going to have, there's already lots of people on the basic, list of people that are kind of in the quote-unquote staff of it, and we've all been talking to lots of people we know about doing things for it. And we want, we want pitches submitted. We have editors who are going to look at pitches. We're all going to work with people who submit pitches through us. It's going to not sort of be, instead of this sort of model where it's like this, here's the blog and the other people in the comment section get less and less involved. I mean, just even at the top, like it's not really a hierarchical thing. Like we're sort of, all the people involved in it at the level of you seeing the name of the pitch are actually, we're all, no one's like better than anyone else. And I think we're really hoping, in the same way that a lot of times with Free Darko, like we would find these enormous long comments and we'd recruit people as writers, we're hoping the same people who will want to comment and be part of the conversation on the classical will also be people who we can end up getting pitches from.
It sounds like a good system. How do you think that you're going to be very much hands-on with the editing and curation of the site, or are you going to, as some similar sites have said, just let people and let writers do their own thing? And I say that having written something for you at Free Darko, I thought that you were an excellent editor, and I think the more hands-on you are over there, probably the better. But I'm curious as to whether or not that's your strategy.
Yeah, well, I think, our interaction was a perfect example of the kind of thing that we're hoping to do at the classical, because you came to me with an idea that I did not know existed, simply because I did not realize that you had followed Ricky Rubio around for the night that he was drafted. And from there, it was a process of us talking about, taking that idea and turning it into a finished piece of writing. And that's, again, the basic thing we want here is we want people coming to us with things that we didn't even know were out there. Whether it's like an angle on something everyone knows about, whether it's a sport no one knows about, or even whether someone is just saying, hey, I'm a good writer and I don't usually write about sports, but I would like to write something about, I don't know, pick an athlete, like Ozzie Smith. If someone who's writing we like, who doesn't really know about sports, is interested in writing about Ozzie Smith, we'll say, sure, let's give it a try. I think the main thing I don't like the sort of idea of writers doing their own thing, because that has a tendency to really, really easily go and like sort of lapse into self-indulgence. Like, this is going to be like a tight, rigorous shop. Drafts are going to be run through people. We're going to be telling it like it is to people when they give it to us. But at the same time, we don't really have, and admittedly, we are going to be writing about things that are happening. Like, there's not just going to be an endless stream of things that aren't related to the news cycle. But more importantly, though, we want it to be a place where you can write about and talk about sports intelligently without there being any sort of like great pretension of either what's acceptable or the right way to be a good writer, or any sort of pretension of like not wanting to be talking about sports and trying to be doing other stuff, because we're all sports writers or want to be, and we want to have a sports site. And if other things come up, it's because they're going to come up naturally in the course of the conversation.
And from what I've heard, it's a more expansive scope than Free Darko had. Free Darko is just basketball specific, and I know a few writers, a few smart basketball writers who almost bemoan the fact that they've become basketball writers, and ultimately they're just in this one sport track and involved in this. They envision something perhaps more cultured for themselves. I'm wondering, are you comfortable being defined as a basketball writer or a sports writer, or do you have aspirations even beyond that?
Well, I mean, I don't even like saying I write about sports for a living. Like when I go to the doctor and they ask me what I do, I just lie. Um, I don't know why the doctor cares so much. I guess they always ask you at the doctor. They're like, "So, what do you do for a living? How did you break your leg?" And anyway, I think, look, I think I wouldn't write about basketball and basketball primarily if I didn't think that it was a very good place where a lot of things that weren't so obviously related to sports intersect. I mean, look, you've got like, I'm not even going to rattle them off. I mean, look, a lot of things that are like more quote unquote cultural come into play when you talk about basketball and the NBA and blah, 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 blah. And that's why I think I found myself writing about basketball, even though I never once in my life, before I started Free Darko, thought I was going to be a sports writer. Now, that sort of has led me to realize that there are opportunities to write about other sports in this way. And I'll be doing some of that myself at the classical. Other people, like especially David Roth, will be doing it too. But I think, again, my whole MO here is I'm not going to be approaching this. I'm going to be approaching this the way I approach Free Darko. Like, I'm writing about basketball because it's a sport that I can find meaningful in a way that interests me. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to come across as me, like, being a basketball writer. I mean, if you ask me a question today about, like, someone in the NBA, I probably won't know who you're talking about just because, like, I don't know, who's thinking about the NBA? There's a lockout and it's the off season. I probably shouldn't have said that, but you know what I mean. I think, yeah, I'm trailing off here.